Good afternoon, traders. I wanted to do a quick video on a demonstration of my new settings here. The way I changed a bit my domes, my depth of market with Jigsaw. As you all know, I use Jigsaw and Sierra charts for my charting. Let me just go over this as the markets are live here, Friday, 14th of May, 2021. As you all know, I use Jigsaw for the dome, um, and then I also use Sierra charts for the quick market movements with the 15-second charts that I use. What I do is I generally put the Sierra charts 15-second chart just behind my dome, so I would generally just do that. Sorry. I would just move around. So this is the micros. So if you just want to review, if we can maybe review the domes here. These are basically, this is the ZF, the bonds, and then I also have the ZN, so the 5-year and the 10-year bonds. I just want to see what the bonds are doing. Also, it's always just for market correlations, because you've all noticed how the market's been reacting to a lot of movements within inflation rates and all that. So I want to make sure I'm not missing the big picture with what's going on with correlated markets. So if we come back to the way I've set this up, I've got the micros here, the Nasdaq. I've got the bonds on the left. Like I said, the bonds I generally just really want to focus on how what it's doing, the correlations, if it's at the lows, if it bounces off the lows, if we're at the highs, how it's been trading. There's various strategies around the bonds that I don't trade the bonds, but I think there are great ways to trade them if you're only looking for one or two main setups. I think the best setups are really to see how major absorption levels.
Comments
I don't
coming from UK's PM Johnson, currently speaking in a news conference at Downing Street, says that we have seen some further clusters of Indian variants in the UK. There are some important unknowns with this variant, and it could be more transmissible. UK's
so
PM Johnson says that if the variant is significantly more transmissible, we may face some hard choices.
So that was my squawk. So I've been
UK's PM
using.
Johnson does add here that there is some good news. We have no evidence that the vaccines are less effective against this Indian variant of COVID-19.
All right, so let's just put the squawk on mute for 2 seconds here. That was my squawk that I'm starting to use now. I'm using Financial Juice. I've used a couple of them just to see the differences between them. I really do believe the best value when it comes to price and the good news and the quick feed of news and all that. I believe Financial Juice works very well. So that's something new that I've started putting on. It's because I used to mainly look at the economic calendar. As you all know, this is the economic calendar here. Let's just hear. So always have a focus on this every week just to make sure, because you've all noticed that this week was full of Fed guys talking all over the place. So you really had to make sure that you were not trading, or you were basically, you knew that they were talking, and kind of like had to either flatten your trades or make sure that you weren't caught in some kind of squeeze when one of them would mention the word inflation, because the big word of the week has been inflation. Everyone's talking about inflation and all that, so that's the whole fundamental part of the markets. So if we come back to my settings here, I've got the domes again, the bonds, NQ, micro here. This is Sierra charts. Sierra charts, I like to use the linear regressions. I fully explain how I use them and what kind of context that gives me. It totally helps a lot filtering what the range of the market is. And then here I've got, if we can just maybe reset this, this is a snapshot. So a snapshot means if we just hit here with Jigsaw. I just named it NQ white for the white coloring here. If you go into parameters, you're able to play around with this, the snapshot, depth meter, power meters. It's just something that I'm testing around to see how I could use it when I'm basically timing my entries with Nasdaq, to see if the settings I have, again, once again, it's basically the last 15 or 20 ticks of 15 or 20 ticks of snapshot power meters here. So that's a way to see like in the last, sorry, on the bid side, on the offer side, the 15 ticks to see how, which side is stacking and pulling and all that. It's not very clear on NASDAQ because now, as you can see, it's live here and it's only Friday afternoon, so maybe it's not the best context. But as you can see, uh, the bids are really stacking up, and it does become clear in some areas, but I don't think a Friday would be the best scenario to really show you examples of this. But sometimes what happens is, they're basically stacking up all the bids, and then the market's actually going lower. So that's kind of a signal for me to like, okay, maybe be careful on the long side, or if you're looking to play, let's say we're here at 53, which is the market's rotating around 53s and 54s here, and then let's say I want to buy at this level. Well, if I see the snapshot meter where the buyers are basically sorry, the bids are really stacking up and the market's still going down, it's most likely going to maybe go lower because it's looking for that extra liquidity and it's going to run through that liquidity. So it's little tricks like this to really manage entries and all that. So again, it's something that I'm testing around because I want to see first of all what the pace of the market is and how this affects the pace of the market. For me, the pace of market is right here on my 15-second footprint charts. I just have this on the right side. You guys won't see it on my screen, so I just kind of quickly look at what the pace of the market is. So for an example here, we've got the market doing this kind of volume every 15 seconds. Now it's all about filtering what's good volume, what's a good pace, and that's full details that I give when I do coaching with a lot of traders. So I mean, for NASDAQ, you really have to have, so like I said, for the NASDAQ, you really have to have a way to filter the rotations. For example, if the market's rotating between, let's say, 1355 here, you really want to have an example where you would want to buy NASDAQ a certain number of points or ticks below, just because you're kind of filtering what the volatility of the market is, and it's any trader that's not really using or are filtering what's the volatility, what's the range looking like in Nasdaq, and if they're only basically trading off candlesticks and all that, believe me, you guys are always going to end up making bad trades because you're basically not filtering the current environment in your trade decisions. So you're basically deciding off a certain level or a certain way to trade the market. And I think with fast markets, you really need to look into volatility, velocity, how the market comes to your trade, to your entry basically, and what kind of rotations we've got. And what helps me is really this linear regression here with a NASDAQ. Gives me a great way to filter what the range looks like, and I have a specific way to just kind of tell me like approximately where I want to put my entries. For fast markets like NASDAQ or gold, let's say, or even the Russell, you need to have, for example, you've got an order here. You need to be basically moving around a lot of your orders just to really get good entries and exits. Because with NASDAQ, you need to be a bit more reactive and proactive in where you're putting your orders and where you're getting filled, versus a more thick market like ES, where you see all the bids here and how they're stacked up. You see here 4162, it's got 35, and if I just, let's say I want to enter long here, I'm waiting for the market to come to me. But the thing is, if I'm not reading the current volatility of the market, which again I get from the linear regressions and the statistics of how many ticks we've gone up and how many ticks we've gone down, it's a quick way to filter how and where I want to put my entries. So for example here, without giving you guys the whole calculation, which I just do really quickly in my head, it's basically telling me here at the current level of how the market is trading, the pace of market where it's just done two here, one trades here. The volume is pretty light, 78 here. So I mean, it's not a huge pace, and we're kind of like just floating around two ticks here, which is not the ideal conditions to really want to have, when you're gonna look for 4 to 6 or 8 tick targets. Because the error a lot of traders do is they're looking for, in this condition here, they're like, okay, I'm gonna enter here, I'm gonna put a target here, but in these conditions, your target and your exits are basically two ticks because the market's basically not not doing anything. But this morning, if you look at my market review of the 14th of May, you'll see how ES was rotating between 6 to 8 ticks approximately. So you were willing to only engage and put entries around those levels. So if we look at the current situation where the pace of the market is very slow, 63, you would only really want to buy around this level here because you want to see how, when the market gets to that level, how it gets there. Again, it's a quick way to visually see where the market's rotating. Again, we're at all-time highs here for the day. Sorry, we're at the highs of the day here today, and I don't think it's a good scenario to look to short because high odds the market is not going to do a lot of big move towards the downside. So this is Sierra charts. I'm using it with my market mapping for the context of the market profile and the volume profile. So basically I just have yesterday's volume profile here. I just want to know if we're in yesterday's range or not. I don't need the full day's length because I don't want to take a lot of screen space, and this is on my right hand side where I'm able to just quickly see the market context there. Other than that, this again here we've got the euro for market correlations. I just want to see what the euro has been doing today, and it's most likely been in a range bound environment. Gold has been also pretty range bound. With Jigsaw, what you could do is you could just have, you know, shortcuts where we're able to, sorry, yeah, short keys where we're able to just plug in short keys that I just use on my keyboard to really just hit one of them, and it'll erase all the current trades. So this is the current trades, this is the offers, this is the bids, the price, and the volume profile of gold. I've got the Russell tape and the gold tape here. Again, I'm trying to, like, use as much as the space I could, but I would actually have what I should have actually moved this around a bit just to show you guys here. Give me 2 seconds. So basically I would do this and move that around a bit just so that my tape is not hidden. Again, it's just quickly. All right, here we are. So once again, this is the Russell, the dome of the Russell. Honestly, I don't really care about the current trades in Russell. I really just want to see if the Russell or the NQ, and I just wanted to basically see if it's the market that's leading. So all day to today, Russell has been the leader, and that's pretty much what I look for with the Russell. I do trade it sometimes, but I've noticed that most of the time, Russell's actually a very good way to engage. Let's say you're willing to be long Russell. If you see any kind of weakness in Russell, well, you want to see if there's any weakness in Nasdaq. These are little things I look at because I believe both markets are not 100% correlated. But if you're long Russell, which, let's say at the moment here, if I look at the linear regression, I'm able to filter out approximately how volatile it is and how wide I need to put my entries. So we've got, the Russell does a 10 ticks per point, so you're able to see the difference here, and then that's like a good quick calculation where if it's at this price at the moment, I would only I would really only want to buy a certain level below. I mean, again, the pace of the market is very slow here, but in best conditions, we've got approximately a 12 tick rotation here. So we're approximately here. So we go 4, 8, 12. I would only want to buy approximately here. And again, how the market approaches my level here. And then at the same time, looking at ES, what it's doing. ES is here, and what Nasdaq's doing. So we've got a pretty mixed market where, nothing is really leading. We've got the Russell leading a bit, and then you've got Nasdaq here. But again, the conditions here are not the ideal because we're Friday afternoon at 12 noon here, and we've got a Fed guy talking within the next couple of minutes, I believe. So that was pretty much what I wanted to mention here. I take notes of the NQ rotations, and sometimes it's just for me to remember that, look, Russell's been the leader all day, so don't forget about the Russell. And then, I'm going to come up with a new video where I'm going to explain approximately how, and you're going to see the nice rotations on Nasdaq in a specific video where I'm going to demonstrate why that's so important, because once you really define the parameters of what you're looking for in intraday, ideally the first 20-30 minutes after the open, you get a good idea of what kind of pace of market we've got and what kind of rotations you're expecting. And again, I'm just not trying to bash sorry, the candlestick guys and the moving average indicators traders, but to be honest, with fast markets like Nasdaq and Russell, you can't rely on that kind of stuff. You really need to make sure that you're filtering what the market's doing, the volatility, what kind of range we've got. And I do trade the micros. So I got a question recently where, let's say we're trading here at on the micros, and I would start like a position on the micros, and I would start putting certain orders at certain levels, and then I would pull around again. Once again, I just want to emphasize how I put in orders, and then I'll cancel that, put it lower. It's because I'm basically reading the tape and what the market's doing when it comes to the volatility. I recenter the domes a lot because one will always kind of like move much higher, and then you've got an ES that's really rotating between 2-3 ticks. So each market's got its nuances, and you really need to know what are the ideal conditions and what are the optimal times to trade. And I believe once you've got that clarified, you have an edge because you know your markets inside out. Typically, if the bonds are at the lows like this, you want to make sure that if you get any kind of a rotation higher in bonds, what kind of effect does that have on the indices? And again, just for the traders who are asking, I don't trade off candlesticks. I don't trade off charts. Charts are mainly good for context. So I do have 15-second charts like this, which I'm just going to show you quickly here on another screen on my right. All it has is gives me the market open, which is my white, the first 5 minutes range here, the 5 minute high and low, and then what the market has done after. That's pretty much all I need as a context. I am not looking to trade at these pivots or anything like that. I just know what kind of context we've got here. And what I like to understand from these contexts is, if I'm reading that the market is rotating within a certain number of ticks, and I've got my entry here, basically it's going to take a lot of time before this market actually comes to this level. So if I'm willing to be patient, I'll let that order stay. But I mean, obviously the market will not hit this level within the next 2 seconds unless there's a huge news that hits the tape. So the volatility and the pace of this market here is really important to determine how I want to trade and how I want to enter my positions. Most traders get ask me, sorry, questions on how to train yourself for the dome and all that. So I mean, I think it's really a process. It's not something you're going to understand quickly within the next 2 or 3 days. It will take several weeks, several months to really fine tune and capture all the information that you really want, because a lot of people are putting a lot of emphasis sorry, a lot of traders are putting a lot of emphasis on certain things where when you're trading, there's a lot of these nuances that you can't always capture, because at the end of the day, we're humans, and we can't have our attention on this area and then also on this, and then what the tape's doing and what's euro doing. It's really to focus on a general context where, generally speaking, if you're seeing, look at this here at the moment, we've got someone that's refreshing the bids here. When you're seeing this, don't expect, look, we're at 225, 222. Look how much absorption just occurred at that level. There are so many little nuances around this where, okay, well, I saw absorption here and the buyers couldn't hold it. It's a bear market, or it's the market, the sellers are in control. Well, it's not that easy, because the overall context of the day is that we've been going up all day. So if you see absorption here and you just see, some kind of absorption, it only goes down 2-3 ticks, it tells you something. But then if you see any kind of absorptions on the volume profile, that's another thing, because let's say we get to this level where we've had the most amount of trades throughout the day, that's another thing. So it's all about context and where does this specific order flow nuance. Either it's absorption or either it's pulling on the bid, pulling on the bids and stacking on the bids, sorry, and pulling the offers or whatever, and how the volume profile affects your trading. These are all nuances that you're going to spend time to decorticate to see what kind of what kind of a nuance works and what kind of context has an effect on this. And then I always emphasize the pace of the market, because the pace of the market is really important. If the market's only trading within 2 4 tick ranges and it's only printing 1 2 1 2 and it's not doing anything, even if I put an order here or if I put an order really close, the time I get filled, it'll take a lot of times. So that's little stuff that I discuss with a lot of traders, and they're putting too much emphasis on one little detail, which I think at the end of the day, the context is also very important. I always say, you really need to record your domes. Make sure that you have that, give yourself that opportunity to learn these things, because you're not going to learn it within a couple of days. If I go back to the time where I kind of went over different courses and different mentors to kind of show me what's important, I had so much information flow that I was not sure which and what would work. So the ideal thing is to really record your domes, watch it with the different market conditions, with the volatility, the volatility, the pace, all that will have an effect on how all these things work out. And at the end of the day, as its absorption, how to use the dome, how to incorporate tape in your trading. Is it the low volume node? Is it the high volume node? Is it the ledge or the edge of this profile? What's the most important areas? And then the last traded quantity. This is something that's really important as well, because this is what's determining here the pace of the market. So look, we've got two printed here. We've got 200 that just printed there. You've got a lot of people that are willing to trade at that price, and then you've got a backtick of one, backtick of two, and then a backtick of 80. You just have to know what and how to trade this according to the volatility that you've got here. Okay, so I hope this helps. Hopefully, you guys could always give me feedback and let me know which if there's any kind of what is it, topics that you guys want me to cover. Once again, I just really wanted to go over the new settings and the new, it's not really new, but again, it's just a bit different for some traders, so they want me to cover what's new and how come I changed it. Well, I didn't really change much. It's just for me to visually see how, when I do my recordings, to see how I could incorporate more of the bonds now as we're coming close to the summertime, and I want to make sure if I could maybe trade the bonds with certain nuances where I would see some kind of absorption on the tape and see how look, I mean, I won't be able to give you the exact context, but look how there was absorption at this level here on the bonds, and then how we're down ticking both at the same time. The other one's hidden, so this one's down ticking, and then the other one is also down ticking. It's just, I just changed a bit the coloring as well for me to visually quickly see what the market's doing. So it's just always a trader's passion, and it's how you develop and you try to perfect your setups and the way you trade, because at the end of the day, all of this, it's all about me seeing the information I want in a very quick way. So I kind of I put back the current trades on my ES dome. I don't do it with the micros here, and I don't do it with the Russell, because on NQ, I think it's a lot of noise. I don't really pay attention to most of the current trades here, but I really want to see the volatility and the velocity, how it's trading. If it's at 62 and I want to enter at 50, let's see how the market comes into my entry, and if my entry is too close to price, these are the things I'm doing. And again, fast markets, you always want to move around a lot of your orders. The error with a lot of traders is they just leave their order here and then they'll get run through because they're too close to the price. You kind of need to let fast markets come to you. And on my left, I forgot to mention, I always have a profile here. Sorry, I always have a footprint of the ES, which tells me the rotations of every 15-minute rotations. Again, I've got coaching videos on how I explain and how I use that. And then I have a point and figure chart here with the NASDAQ, what the NASDAQ has done. This here, I'm using it for liquidity buckets. If I've missed the last 5-10 minutes, I just come back and see what the market has done. For example, it basically rotated within a certain number of bar duration. So look at this bar here. We had a nice move up. It lasted like 5 minutes. Or for me, what's an important level here is an important nuance here. I want to see where the liquidity bucket is, and how the market will react when it comes back to that level. Okay, so hope this helps, and we'll really appreciate your feedback. And if you guys could hit the like button and send me emails or messages on Twitter, this way I could help you guys as much as possible. Have a nice day.